Hello and welcome to this episode of Microchips. In this episode we'll be looking at my frequency compensation board and fitting it into a radio. So here we have the board already made, but with the actual capacitor that's needed. We're going to leave that out as it's always a bit tricky to find the correct value on some radios. I've noticed with the Uniden radios that it's quite easy, but on the Cybernet radios it can be quite hit or miss. So here we have a Harrier CBX that I have previously modified with UK4 with midband. As you can see, there's my Arduino modification in there, but there's no frequency compensation on this. I did actually adjust the value of one of the capacitors next to the crystal just to get it close, but we want to get this bang on. So for this board to work, we need an all-time positive. We need a switch positive for the band we're going to switch in the capacitance. We need a lead to the crystal, and we need a negative. And then the magic is finding that capacitor. So first off, we need to find a suitable positive supply inside the radio, switched of course on the main switch or from the main switch. And luckily on this radio we can either take it from the back of the main switch, which is there, or we can follow this red wire across onto the delta tune switch and we can take it off there. So on this radio we'll take it off the delta tune switch. On other radios you'll have to find it, but usually the back of the main power switch is a good place. But this one, due to it being a little bit crowded in that area, we'll use this because it's nice and accessible and it's switched 12 volts. Like I said, on this radio I've actually changed the values of one of the capacitors, and that's C1, which is one of the capacitors that's connected to the crystal, and it should be a 56 picofarad, but I believe I've actually lowered that. But the trick to this board is we need to get the frequency higher so we can switch in capacitance to bring it lower, because it doesn't seem to work by if you have the frequency low and you try and switch it high, that doesn't quite work. So we need the frequency to be higher and then we need to bring it down using this board. Now on some radios that can be on the UK FM side, and on other radios that can be on the mid-band side. It just depends. But the end result is that the frequency on both of the bands should be pretty much bang on. So we're going to put a wire to the 12 volts on the centre of this switch. This is obviously the other side of the switch to the mid-band in UK FM. We'll solder that in the centre position. And that's the other side of the switch. So this is for the band we actually want to switch in the extra capacitance. And the white wire that will go to the crystal, and a black wire just to a negative point somewhere on the board. That should be easy enough to find. So we'll just use the negative point that's close by. So let's have a look at some frequencies. So 6010, so that's actually a bit low, and mid-band is slightly high. So don't forget, we can actually use the trimmer on board. We can actually use CT2 to trim down both of them and get one of them on frequency, and then we can switch in capacitance to bring the other one, and then readjust it, because they both seem to adjust, interfere with each other. And also soldering this white wire seems to put a load onto the crystal as well and alter the frequency slightly, so we need to compensate for that. So this is with the wire connected but no capacitance in. Now I'd actually adjusted this value on C1. I think I changed it to something like a 22 picofarad. But there we've got a 22 picofarad on it. So UK FM is now mid-band is definitely high, which is good. After a little bit of adjustment on the CT2, we've got UK FM bang on with a 22 picofarad in place of C1. As you can see, channel 1 UK FM is bang on. Now mid-band is slightly high. So we've actually connected that to the mid-band position of the switch. I'm going to switch in some capacitance to get mid-band bang on, and there we have it, 26965. Go back up to UK FM, 6012, bang on. As you can see, that's the position of C1, it's just on the edge of the connector for the mid-band mod. So finally we have a 22 picofarad on the frequency compensation board, and we have a 22 picofarad in place of C1, and that should be it. So we'll carefully put away the frequency board, finally check the frequencies just as a last check. So UK FM looks good. Mid-band looks good. It's pretty close. Everything looks pretty close, but it's as good as. So happy with that. So there we have fitting the frequency compensation board to this Harrier CBX, which is of course a Cybernet chassis. As you can see, it's a little bit of fiddling with the capacitors, but once you get an idea of what capacitors and what values to use, it's quite easy. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next episode.